Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, while Bitcoin is still struggling at this exact level of resistance and still playing out the descending parallel channel on this daily time frame, we're seeing massive liquidity just now build below the price of Bitcoin in the short term, which is something that we need to pay attention to. So I'll be talking about that in just a moment, alongside the price of XRP now continuing to form this new price pattern, while the price of Chainlink is just now rejecting here in the RSI, causing a bit of a short-term pullback, something to pay attention to. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the weekly Bitcoin price chart, and currently the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bull market on the larger time frames. And if we're taking a look at this weekly time frame, at least for now, we're still seeing a lack in bullish momentum. Basically the same story as what I've been saying over the last 1 month, give or take, basically looking very neutral, at least for now. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin price chart, obviously we still have higher highs in the price of Bitcoin and lower highs in the weekly Bitcoin RSI, which is indeed a bearish divergence. And so overall on the weekly time frame, not a lot has changed over the last 1 day. We're still within a larger bull market, but during the bull market, we're in a bit of a short-term cool-off, just slowing down and losing momentum, kind of like what we saw basically around the same time of the year just last year. But with that being said, taking a look at this 3-day time frame, and at least for now, once again, this is also showing a lack in momentum to either direction, so not overly bullish or overly bearish, very, very neutral right now in the short term. And if we're taking a look at this 3-day time frame, once again, we still have a possible bullish price pattern, a cup and handle pattern on the 3-day time frame, which is basically now formed but not confirmed, because in order to actually confirm this pattern sometime soon in the next few days, in the next 1 or 2 weeks potentially, we need to see a breakout here on the 3-day time frame. So a 3-day candle close confirming above, ideally around 110,000. And so obviously that breakout right there has not actually confirmed, which means this price pattern is also not currently confirmed. And if we're taking a look at this daily time frame, at least for now, I would still expect a lot of support at around 103,000 and 98,000 if the price gets to those levels, and a lot of resistance at around 110,000 and 112,000. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin price chart, we're still in a descending parallel channel, which is something I talked about in my last video just yesterday, and we can see a clear descending line of resistance and descending line of support. And currently this line of support is sitting at approximately $100,000 per Bitcoin, and this line of resistance is currently sitting at around between around 109,000 to 110,000, closer towards that 110k level. But if we're zooming further into the short term, taking a look at the 6-hour time frame, we can see short-term support and resistance. Of course, just over the last 1 day since my last video, we actually broke back below this area on the price chart. So it seems that this area is now starting to lose relevance. There was a significant area on the price chart previously, as we could see, but more recently, as we could see, it's basically losing relevance. We're just clearly breaking to the upside and then breaking back below that level. And this is also another sign that in the short term, we have no momentum to either direction. The moment we see a breakout above a level or break below a level, obviously we're not seeing a lot of follow through to either direction, which is also something that I've been talking about many times recently here on the channel. But the area I'm talking about, in case you're new to the channel, is sitting in between around 108.5k to 109,000. So that possibly could act as a bit of short-term resistance now that we're sitting below that level, but is not all that significant anymore. But a significant level of resistance or area of resistance to continue to pay attention to is still sitting in between around 110,000 to 110.5k, and I'd expect more resistance at close to the all-time high at close to 112,000. And as for short-term support, if we see another little dip like this, expect some support at around 107,500, so basically just under 108,000. We have some short-term support around there, but the next major area of support in the shorter term is sitting in between around 105.5k to 106.5k. And if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, what is very interesting is that right now we're actually starting to see a lot more liquidity just over the last 1 day now build to the downside below the price of Bitcoin. As we can see, we have a lot of liquidity starting to build in between around 106.7k to 107,000. And so honestly, I would not be surprised if the price of Bitcoin ultimately takes out that liquidity, especially considering it's right here on the 6-hour time frame, basically just above this next major area of support. So honestly, a likely scenario is that at some stage, maybe in the next few days or so, we simply take out that liquidity, maybe bounce around this area of support, and then come back towards the upside, considering once again, we have a lack in momentum. So we're not really seeing massive bullish or bearish moves in a certain direction. But if you haven't already, make sure you're set up ready to go on a crypto exchange to take advantage of the next trading opportunity as soon as it happens, because it could honestly happen at any moment now, and I will be sharing it here on the channel. But personally, I'm taking a lot of my crypto trades over on Bitfinex, so I'll make sure to leave a link to Bitfinex below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this sign up page right here where you can claim some massive trading bonuses. For example, up to $45,000 in trading bonuses just by using the link below this video to trade crypto, and also deposit bonuses. For example, if you deposit just $1,000, you get a $200 bonus into your Bitfinex account. But once again, you can only claim these massive bonuses if you use the link below this video to actually make your Bitfinex account. And in case you're wondering, Bitfinex is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want Bitfinex as an exchange, there's also 2bit as another option out there. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video. And in case you're wondering, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a look at Ethereum on the daily time frame, and Ethereum is still within this sideways price range, as we can see, bouncing around between roughly 2.4k to 2.8k. And so in case you're new to the channel, I'll still expect a lot of support around 2380 to 2.4k, and a lot of resistance in between 2.7k to 2.8k, and I would expect a bit of short-term support at around 2.5k. But considering the fact that Ethereum is clearly lacking momentum, I'll not be surprised if the price of ETH simply just chops around sideways for a little longer in this sideways price range that we've been in for over a month, as we can see. And especially if Bitcoin is playing out something similar, just sort of bouncing around sideways, lacking momentum, Ethereum and a lot of the altcoin market, unfortunately, will play out something similar. But honestly, not a lot has changed for Ethereum over the last one day. So without wasting your time, getting straight into the price of Solana on the daily time frame. And Solana is currently bouncing, still holding above this key area of support, key level of support, sitting at around 143 to 146. So continue to expect a lot of support in that region. And obviously, many times over the last few weeks and months, we've seen many bounces from this exact area, proving it as a significant area of support. But if the price of Solana actually breaks below around 143 with confirmation, so candle closes below 143, in that situation, it would be extremely likely we'll at least see a drop down towards roughly 138 to 139. But honestly, once we break below 143, it'll also be very likely we'll just continue down towards this local low at around 126 to 132. So 126 is the candle wick low, the actual lowest point here at the local low. And of course, around 131 to 132 is based on the candle closes here. But for now, once again, we're still finding support in between 143 to 146, which in the immediate short term is some good news. But with that being said, once again, we're still lacking momentum. So even though we're seeing little bounces from this support, we're not really seeing massive bullish moves, obviously, because we don't have that bullish momentum in the market. And when it comes to short-term resistance to watch out for, we do have some resistance at around 155 to 156. And above that, we have significant resistance at around 166 to 167. But overall, not a lot has changed for Solana over the last one day. So getting straight into the price of XRP on the 12-hour time frame, and just over the last one day, XRP actually made a retest of this massive area of resistance here, which is what I said would happen over the last couple of days. Obviously, if you watched my last few videos here on the channel, you would see me talking about how it's extremely likely that very soon the price will come back up towards this resistance to retest this resistance, which by the way is sitting in between around 231 to 235, 236. So in that area, I've been saying expect the price to reject from that area or struggle from that area, and that's exactly what we saw play out as predicted. And so for now, the price of XRP once again is just rejected from that area, and it's possible we could even see another retest of that area. So keep that in mind. That's still a possible scenario, especially while this short-term rising wedge pattern is still forming, because while this is still forming, technically we are trending towards the upside, at least in the short term, forming higher lows and higher highs. And in case you're wondering, this line of support for the rising wedge is sitting at roughly $2.25, and the line of resistance is sitting at roughly $2.34 to $2.35. And if we were to see a confirmed break below around $2.25 with candle closes below that level, in that situation, that would activate a technical price target for a rising wedge wedge at the bottom of the wedge, which is sitting at approximately $2.09. But before we could actually hit that level, we also have other short-term support to pay attention to. For example, around $2.20, I would expect support around there, and also at around $2.17, I would expect a lot of short-term support around there if we first, of course, break below this level. But overall, the price of XRP, once again, is still lacking momentum. We aren't trending slightly in the bullish direction in the immediate short term, the very short-term price structure, but considering we have very significant resistance above the price, and considering the rest of the crypto market, especially Bitcoin, is lacking momentum in the shorter term, it's unlikely that we'll see a massive move towards the upside, breaking out above this significant resistance, unless Bitcoin and some of the other crypto assets in this video do something similar. And so overall, those are my expectations for XRP in the short term. Maybe a little bit more of a retest of this significant area of resistance, but still struggling in that area and ultimately seeing some sort of rejection, kind of like what we just saw over the last one day. And with that being said, taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the 12-hour time frame, it's a very similar situation for Chainlink. We're basically bouncing around sideways, consolidating sideways, as we can see, lacking momentum to either direction. So yes, we could see little short-term bullish moves and short-term bearish moves, but ultimately the momentum or the trend in the immediate short term here is very neutral. And technically speaking, the shorter term neutral trend or the shorter term sideways price range is still kind of within a larger bearish trend. As we can see, we've not really confirmed a reversal out of this much larger bearish trend, which is visible here on the 12-hour time frame, also on the daily time frame. But once again, at least for now, in the shorter term, we're looking very, very neutral, lacking momentum to either direction. And when it comes to support and resistance, I would expect a lot of support in between 1260 to 1280 and a lot of resistance in between around 1360 to 1380, almost 1390 based on this high right here, and a bit of short-term support at around $13 approximately. And if we're zooming further into the short term, taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the 4-hour time frame, we can see that technically speaking, we've just seen another rejection, so not really invalidating this bearish divergence, because ultimately the RSI, as we can see here, actually came towards the upside, tested this important level of resistance, and then ultimately rejected from that level, as we can see. And so the invalidation signal that we'll be looking out for would be a confirmed breakout here in the RSI above this line of resistance, ideally in order to properly invalidate the bearish divergence and get on with a little bit more bullish price action. Once again, still lacking momentum, but some slight bullish price action would likely happen if we invalidate the bearish divergence. But for now, considering this rejection in the RSI, this bearish divergence can still influence the price in the shorter term, which means either expect a little bit of a short-term pullback like this, or potentially just some choppy sideways price action as the most likely outcomes, the most common outcomes from a bearish divergence. And so overall, those are my expectations and the key levels to watch out for Chainlink and the rest of the cryptos I've been talking about in this video. And once again, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, check out the links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can trade crypto no matter what the price is doing, whether we're bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways, you can profit in all of that price action by watching these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit during bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit during choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.